like to call the August meeting of the Edgecombe County Commissioners to order. Mr. Evans.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all. Before we do our safety instruction, I do like to gently remind you, if you would, through the course of the meeting, as you're speaking, make sure you speak towards the microphone, lean towards it. Sometimes in the recording, it's a little difficult to hear some of us, me too sometimes, I guess, when we speak. So just a friendly reminder. But I would like to invite Ms. Natalie Best to come and give us our safety instructions for tonight.
To provide for the safety of those attending this meeting, please listen to the following instructions in case of an emergency. First, please take a moment to note where your exits are. If an emergency arises that prompts us to evacuate, please exit this room in a quick and orderly manner through one of the doors to your right, and then proceed to the nearest stairwell, directions to which are indicated by the exit signs. Once you exit the building, we ask that you safely cross Granville Street, the street that runs beside our building, to our parking lot to be safely away from the building. Our staff will help provide additional direction and assistance. In the case of a tornado warning, please exit this room into the hallway, where we will all remain until it is safe to exit. In the event of an active shooter in the building, if there is an accessible escape path, run and try to evacuate the premises. If you can't evacuate, find a place to hide where you are less likely to be found and lock any doors as you can. And as a last resort, and only if your life is in imminent danger, fight. Our staff will continue to provide additional assistance on what to do. Thank you for your attention.
Brother Hines, Pastor, please.
Eternal God, our Father, we give thanks for the beginning of the 8th month of the year. We thank you for your loving kindness and your tender mercy. We ask that you would bless our minds and our hearts as we consider the things we need to make a difference in our county. Help us to be always considering our constituents. Bless us as we think. Help us to do the things that's pleasing in thy sight. For Christ's sake, amen.
You have received your agenda packages, the minutes, are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, the minutes are approved. Mr. Evans, schedule appointment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to invite Ms. Teresa Lewis, our tax administrator, to come forward to present to you the closeout of our annual settlement for 2021 and charge per collecting taxes for 2022.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You have a copy of the annual settlement required by state statute in your agenda package. As you can see, the collection rate for annual taxes went down from 95.79% for FY 2020-21 to 95.37% for FY 21-22, a decrease of 0.42%. Just for informational purposes, I'd like to point out the motor vehicle tax collection rate for FY 21-22 is 99.64. And that is a 0.32% increase from this past fiscal year. With the increase in motor vehicle collections and the decrease in annual collections, our overall collection rate ended with a combined rate of 95.21%. This past year, we had to face difficult challenges than previously, which were high turnover and being short-staffed. Out of the 5 employees within the collections office, we have only 2 employees that have 3 years or more within the collections division. That leaves 3 employees with less than 3 months of experience. This staffing challenge has allowed us to maintain our minimal needs of collecting the monies received, not allowing us time to concentrate on any enforcements as much as we would like to have. With that being said, I'm very pleased with what my staff has accomplished this year. We didn't maintain the 20-year high that we achieved last year, but we did decrease to the point of COVID-19 did to us in 2020. In the new year, we will keep our heads high and continue to serve the county. to the best of our ability. I'd like to thank the board for their continued support as well as Mr. Evans and the administrative staff. Does anyone have any
Any
questions?
questions or concerns?
I have a question about the collections. I have a question. Have you found any similarity of why staff keeps leaving that department?
The pay and the high, demand, that we're constantly being fussed at. You know, the citizen, it's a tough job standing in the DMV office and in the collection office.
Any other questions?
I do have some statistics I would like to share.
Go ahead.
Even though the percentages did come down, we are still within range of what our typical percentage rate is, prior to our high last year. But we did write off, $6,000 more than what we did for the 10-year statute of limitations. The previous year, we wrote off this year, we wrote off $213,978. Last year, we only wrote off $207,000. But in the same sense, we collected more money back tax-wise versus current year taxes. So, what I mean there is, we collected $301,963.86 more overall than what we did last year. So even though our current year doesn't reflect in our percentage, we did collect more monies. Okay. We did have 6 filings of bankruptcy that totaled $16,000. That's something that we cannot enforce collections on. We also did 92 have currently 92 active payment plans. We're concentrated on debts set off, and we issued 161 debts to the state of North Carolina for their debts totaling up to $432,000 in delinquent taxes. We did utilize the
debts to the state of North Carolina. Tell us what you mean.
So what that means is we send demand letters to the taxpayer saying if those debts are not satisfied, they will sit in a clearinghouse with the state of North Carolina. If you have a income tax return, that money will be garnished from that return and sent to the state for that. Or if you have a lottery money that it requires more than $600, if they have to go to the state to get it, then we will receive those funds instead of them. We also utilize as chiefs, which is Unclaimed Monies. And in that claim, we issued 237 claims, which collected $93,904.61 in back unclaimed money that this taxpayer didn't even know they had. The county went in by help of Mr. Peter's staff and searching those accounts and looking for people who didn't know, and we got their money instead of them.
And you help the taxpayer.
We did. They didn't have to pay the bill out of their pocket. It came out of the state's pocket. We did do garnishments of wages. We issued $1,303 wage garnishments this year. That is down from last year, and that is due to QVC. We lost a huge employer from the county, so that, of course, that had a lot of big garnishments from that employer alone. So we did, that number is down.
Would you give me that number again?
1,303 garnishments.
You know how much that total?
I did not total those, no ma'am. I apologize for that.
QVC only employed 379 Edgecombe County residents,
Yeah, but out of QVC, we probably had a stack of garnishments this high.
but it could not be any greater than 379 because they're not Edgecombe County residents.
No, I'm not saying that total 1,303 was just for
I just
QVC,
wanted
that
to
was
say that
for,
for clarity's sake.
yeah. Out of that 1,300, it was down because we were not able to garnish QVC.
May I, excuse me,
Mhm.
in regards to years previous to this past year, you said that was down?
That was down.
So can you give us an idea, is it down a lot?
It's about 1,900 was what we had last year versus 1,300 this year.
Okay.
Our attorneys, foreclosures, we sent 110 demand letters for foreclosure this past fiscal year. We sold 38. The amount of letters owing for those 110 parcels were $181,484. Out of the cumulative, this past fiscal year, out of those, we collected $789,425.49. That is both from the sales for payment plans, the current year demands, and the previous year demands that we currently have under payment plans. So that is, that's a good figure. It is down from last year as well. We had $1.1 million paid last year, and this year we had $789,425. So it is consistently down, and you know, that's just the trend. Everybody's is down. We just haven't been able to do what we wanted to do. Does anybody have any more questions?
No, but the $213,000, now is that something you write off? That just has to go through your office and a manager?
That's the statute of limitations. You don't have to write it off, but we can't enforce collections on it anymore. It's been the practice of the finance and the board to write off the 10-year statute of limitations. So if any enforcements that were started prior to the write-off, we will still receive that money. So if Mr. Peters closes on a foreclosure that we filed a judgment on before July 1, we will still collect that 2010 tax year, or 2011 tax year.
Any other questions? If not, it's recommended that we
Adopt the resolution as that I am going to read for you.
Yeah, with the resolution.
It's
based on what
not,
I see your action recommended, we still have to take that action.
This is the action. So the first action will be is this resolution she's going to read is to approve, accept the settlement for June 30th, 2021, subject independent audit as she has presented.
Would that be a motion? Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Next.
So, I'm sorry.
Go
you want me
ahead.
to read it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Whereas pursuant to the provisions of North Carolina General Statute 105-373, the tax collector has made her report of settlement to the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners for fiscal year 21, 22, and prior years after July 1, and before she is charged with taxes for the current fiscal year 22, 23. Whereas based upon the written and oral report of settlement of the tax collector, the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners has made sufficient inquiry in order to reach a determination that the collection work of the tax collector has been performed satisfactorily, and that the tax collector has done everything she could have done to reach whatever property may have been available. Whereas required by North Carolina General Statute 105-373, before being charged with taxes for the current fiscal year, the tax collector has presented to the Board of Commissioners list of persons owning real property whose taxes for the preceding fiscal year remain unpaid and a principal amount owed by each person, and a list of the persons not owning real property whose personal property taxes for the preceding fiscal year may remain unpaid, along with a statement under oath that she has made diligent efforts to collect the taxes due from the persons listed out of this personal property, and by other means available to her for collection. And she has reported such other information concerning taxpayers as may be of interest to or required by the Board of Commissioners, including a report of her efforts to make collection outside the taxing unit under provisions of North Carolina General Statute 105-364. Whereas the settlement of tax collector, including the settlement for the taxes for prior years, which are attached hereto, together this action with this action of the Board of the Commissioners shall be entered in full upon the minutes of the said board. Whereas approval of this settlement does not relieve the tax collector of her bondsman of liability or any shortage actually existing at the time of the settlement, and thereto discovered, nor does it relieve the collector of any criminal liability. Now therefore be further resolved by the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners that the annual settlement with the tax collector for fiscal year 21-22 and prior years and hereby accepted as presented by the collector. Be it further resolved by the Edgecombe Commissioners of that Edgecombe County that the following documents attached hereto incorporated herein are approved, consisting of 2 pages and further described as follows. Settlement of 21 tax accounts as of June 30, 22, including the following: that the collector shall be charged with the total amount of all the taxes of his or her hands for the year, including amounts originally charged to her and all amounts subsequently charged on account of discoveries, all penalties, interest, and costs collected by him in connection with the taxes of the current year, and all other sums collected by her. The tax collector shall be credited with all sums deposited by her, releases duly allowed by the governing body, and principal amount of taxes consisting of liens on real property, personal property, and registered motor vehicles, and commissions, if any, lawfully paid by the collector as compensation. Number 2, settlement of prior years, 2011 through 2020, the accounts and 2021 tax accounts as of June 30, 2018. As of June 30, 2022, for Edgecombe County and its municipalities in which she is charged to collect an annual statement of collections for July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022 of non-tax revenues. Be it further resolved that the list of 2021 unpaid real property taxes and the list of persons not owning real property whose 2021 personal property taxes remain unpaid are hereby acknowledged as received. The tax collections report of 2011 through 2020 as of June 30, 22 are acknowledged as received. This report of minimum taxes is acknowledged as received, and the report concerning efforts made to locate personal property and other taxing units belong to delinquent taxpayers and the efforts made under the provisions of NCGS 105-364 to collect taxes is acknowledged as received. Adopted this first day of August 2022.
Motion.
So moved.
Questions?
Did Mr. Peters write down?
All in favor, let me know by the vote sign. Aye.
And were we supposed to have a copy of that?
No, man, we just.
Can you read that again?
That's
I was getting them his and hers mixed up, sorry.
Now, let's take care of number 2. That's
number 1.
that's number 1.
Yeah, so now you get the charge. It's not as long.
Go ahead.
Oh, you didn't take the vote. You got a motion in a second.
We good?
Did twice.
Okay.
That'll take care of it real good then. Okay, go ahead.
And I'm reading, this is your charge to me. So it's to me, the collector of Edgecombe County, Town of Canida, Town of Leggett, Town of Pine Tops, Town of Princeville, Town of Maxfield, Town of Speed, Town of Sharpsburg, and Town of Whitaker. Those are all the towns that I'm charged to collect their contract by you guys and them. You're hereby authorized, empowered, and commanded to collect the taxes remaining unpaid as set forth in the 2012 through 22 tax records filed in this office of the tax collector and in the tax receipts herewith delivered to you in the amounts and from the taxpayers likewise therein set forth. You are further authorized, empowered, and commanded to collect the 2012 through 2022 taxes charged and assessed as provided by law for adjustments, changes, and additions to the tax records and tax receipts delivered to you, which are made in accordance with law. Such taxes are hereby declared to be the first lien on all real property of the respective taxpayers in Edgecombe County, Town of Canida, Town of Leggett, Town of Pine Tops, Town of Princeville, Town of Macclesfield, Town of Speed, Town of Sharpsburg, and Town of Whitaker. This order shall be a full and sufficient authority to direct, require, and enable you to levy on the sale any real or personal property and attach wages and or other funds or such taxpayers or and on an account thereof in accordance with the law. You're further authorized to call upon the sheriff to levy upon the sale of personal property under execution for the payment of taxes within available funds in the budget ordinance and personnel positions established. The tax collector may appoint employees and levy the authority To perform these functions authorized by the Machinery Act of Chapter 105 of North Carolina General Statute and other applicable laws for current and previous year's taxes, county personnel in the tax collector's office continue to serve in their respective positions. Taxes on classified motor vehicles for 2011 and prior years are deemed uncollectible. Therefore, the county commissioners pursuant to 105-373H do hereby relieve the tax collector of the charge of collecting taxes on classified motor vehicles listed pursuant to GS 105-330.381. And that requires a motion.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Question.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How much does the county get? Is there a flat fee for collecting those taxes for those other municipalities?
Is it 2%? Is it?
2%
I think it's 2%.
of what we collect.
Any other questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved and you are recharged.
Thank you.
Thank you for the job that you've done.
Good job.
Other petitions? At this time, anybody, go ahead, Mr. Evans, anybody that's already,
Yes, sir. We do have 3 that called to sign up to speak tonight. First is Mr. C.B. Dockridge. Mr. Dockridge has provided a copy of his comments, and there's there to receive.
I'm C.B. Galtridge, 4460 Meadowbrook Road, right now. And I'd like to thank Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the commission and the staff for allowing me to continue voicing my concerns over the unfairness and the unequal funding of our Edgecombe County public and charter schools. I've read the Senate bill, and it does allow you some flexibility that you can do different funding for different, in different entities. So you're within the law in doing it. However, I'm amazed that the school board, the parents and the students involved, and the Edgecombe County taxpayers has not bent your ear a little bit about this situation. It's totally unfair, irresponsible, and unnecessary. What's right about paying Edgecombe County students in Nash County system $335.85 in gap funds, plus paying unequal capital fund expenses? We are paying for new schools in Nash County, and to my knowledge, we hadn't built a new school in this county in 45 years, except where we got some disaster funding. I might be wrong with that, but that's to my knowledge. How can we fix that? I guess this is what y'all want to hear. All right. Well, we missed one opportunity last month, so now we can put forward and pass a motion to do equal funding for all county students, and or you can revisit the merger motion sometime down the road. I realize you probably don't want to keep hearing this address, but let me tell you how this is the best opportunity we have to pass the merger and fund the cost of demerging and equalizing our students' funding. There have been over 500 houses built in Edgecombe County in the last 18 months. I've been involved in close to 300 of them myself. Home and land prices are at an all-time high in our area. You just approved, I think last month or sometime, a new evaluation, reval, and you're going to find that this time the price is going to be 20, 25, 30% higher on homes. Land price is going to be higher. Last time you had to reval, you were in a weak market and prices were low. There was a lot of foreclosures going on. You know, you could buy a house outside of Flagmarsh in the 2000s for $150,000. You could go buy it for 50 or 60. So that reflects the evaluation. Now you can't hardly find a house to buy. So you're going to have new tax dollars. So please prioritize this new money to improve our educational system for all our students equally with new, much-needed vocational training programs to meet the demands of local industry and business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Next is Teresa Letchworth.
Hello, my name is Teresa Letchworth. I reside at 1769 Pine Tops Crisp Road, and I want to thank you for allowing me to address my concerns of some abandoned property that's in my neighborhood. It was actually down the road from where I live. For those that are not familiar with Pine Tops Crisp Road in the big town of Pine Tops, this would be the road that South Edgecombe Middle School is on. It's just up the road from that. And I have pictures here in case anyone wants to take a look at it. But these are two houses that have been abandoned quite some time now. My concerns also, you can see the overgrowth there. The windows are busted out. Not only is this an eyesore, it causes safety concerns. There's been drug activity going on in this area. Homeless people are starting to reside in this. My concerns also is it's affecting the property for the other part of the neighborhood. It could be, causing the value of that to go down as well. I've been addressing this with the planning department. This is the third week now. I've been calling, addressing my concerns, and I was like with Cynthia, she said I'll send Brandon out to, and I told her, I said, I have pictures, I can show you what I'm talking about. Because at first they thought, oh, it's just somebody not cutting the grass. I said, no, it's not overgrown vegetation I'm talking about. I'm talking about, this is abandoned houses with windows busted out. She said, well, I'll send Brandon out to take a look at it. And I told her the address and where it was and gave her, pretty good details on that. And she said, I'll get back with you. I didn't hear back. So I called, and she said, well, Brandon went out and took pictures of one, but he didn't have the address of the second. And I said, well, they're like 2 doors down. I mean, how can you miss that? So she said, I'll have to send him out again. I went, okay. Gas money, we'll go back out there again. So he goes back out there again, no call back. Didn't hear back from anyone about any of this. So I called back again, and she's like, well, we could probably send a courtesy letter to them. She said, but I don't know where to send the courtesy letter. I said, well, one of them did go in foreclosure. There's a buyer that bought the lot and the piece of property for a little of nothing, and it does have a current mailing address. Why don't you send it to the same place you send the tax bill to? The other one is probably getting ready to be in foreclosure. Taxes haven't been paid on that for quite some time. But I asked at that time, I said, so a courtesy letter, what does that entail? She said, well, we would just ask them to, the owners, or if we can locate them, to just come out and board up the property. Well, I don't know about any of you, but I don't think I would want to live next to this or across the street from any of this. And to me, boarding up the property doesn't make it look a lot better than what this is, nor does it provide any more safety or value to the home there. So my wish is that maybe something could be looked into as far as having these, either the owners be held accountable for the property, take care of it, or either it needs to be torn down or just needs to be addressed further. Like if I've been contacting the planning department and receiving no callbacks regarding this issue.
Ms. Evans, you want to respond to that, or Mr. Peters, in terms of how we would process that?
Well, I guess the first thing I'll note is that there's 2 issues here. One is the grass and one is the home itself. Obviously, we have minimum housing standards. That there's a process to address that, somewhat of a lengthy process, but it's certainly something that we can start. Now, the grass in the county, we don't have a grass ordinance. That's difficult to implement in a county. So, in cases where we get calls about that, they do oftentimes will send a letter to the property owner and say there have been complaints about the grass. And oftentimes we do see some results from that. There's really 2 different issues here. Beyond that, I need to find out more details from the planning department. We certainly can follow up.
Because what we will say is that it is a complaint now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I took, close to the windows are literally busted out of the property, so it's not just overgrown grass. I mean, it's.
But I do know in some instances, the boarding up does help with the safety issue. I don't know what our ordinance requires, okay, or if we have an ordinance as it relates to this. Are you familiar?
Well, other than them housing, I'm not familiar with another ordinance that might address that, but there could be delinquent taxes and one of those looks familiar. What are the addresses again?
I don't have that right in front of me.
Pine Tops Crisp Road.
Right. I can certainly, I have it, I think I have it in my phone. I can give it to you tonight.
I think we will say it's a complaint, and the manager will address it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
In regards
Yes,
to,
sir.
Mr. Evans, you said a grass ordinance or grass?
Like, for example, in town, like here in town, if you don't cut your grass and it exceeds a certain height, the town can come out and, write you a citation.
Or send a contract.
And eventually, if you don't cut it, they can send someone to cut it. We don't have an ordinance like that. So we really don't have that to regulate people cutting their grass. And that's not unusual.
Yes, sir. Well, the reason I ask that question is, when does grass go beyond being grass and being vegetation that is, you know what I'm getting at before I even say it. I mean, it's like, I understand, centipede's not gonna get but 3 or 4 inches tall if you leave it for months, but, when you look at a picture like, Ms. Letchworth has got a neighbor in an area that I travel every day, it's going beyond grass. We may not have an ordinance, but we may not have a grass ordinance, but we need some kind of ordinance that addresses a home and a neighborhood that totally undermines the rest of the community. I mean, I look back and I think, well, okay, if those homes that have like a community ordinance or something, you're kind of held to a standard. I mean, I'm sure you can't have that in the county. You can't make people pay to be a member of whatever.
There's some subdivisions that might have that.
Yeah, but, I mean, I'm sensitive, and I know we'll look into it, but there's many, it's infringing, it's getting to the point that, I mean, there are places that we need to look at this hard. Very hard.
I totally understand. Certainly, I happen to live in town here in Tarboro now, and I spent most of my life out in a very rural, part of Halifax County.
Yes, sir.
And I've seen that happen before. I can understand that would be a concern if it happened next to me. It would be very difficult in a county, in a very rural county, to implement any kind of ordinance that would regulate grass or any type of vegetation. Now like I said, what we've done before is, contacted property owners, and I dare guess what percentage we were successful with that. Oftentimes we see some movement from that. Sometimes it's a property owner, maybe they don't live, if they bought it in foreclosure, they don't live nearby, and they might not realize what it looks like, but we certainly can push if the board wants us to look at, implementing or putting together, drafting some type of ordinance like that, we certainly will do the wish of the board.
Now, I've had folks complain about the same kind of thing, but it's like from when we had the flood, even from '99 in certain areas, nobody has done anything to a house, and constituency is one house or 2 houses down. It's like, why can't you do something like that? So it's the same kind of thing. We don't have anything in the books that we can take care of anything like that.
So my question to the county attorney is, do we not have the power to adopt an ordinance in terms of abandonment of a house or doing anything in relationship or something like this?
Well, we can look at that, but often the houses that are abandoned will eventually fall into the minimum housing.
We've got
It could be
to.
resolved that way. But when they also, eventually, if they're abandoned, aren't paying taxes, so there are ways to get
Mr. Booth, excuse me, we'll move on. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
In regards to a minimum housing standard, I think we just heard it was a rather lengthy process.
It can be. The building inspector has to go out there, and it sounds like he's been wanting to go and make certain findings. There has to be notice served on the property owner in a hearing. And then the building inspector can order that the property either be repaired or demolished. And if the owner doesn't eventually repair, the county can demolish it. And that's a cost, and the county has a demolition lien on the property. So it's not often the easiest way to do it, but if the house looks like that, they likely have to pay taxes in some time.
And to start that process, the initial process, would that come from a neighbor, a community member, Ms. Letchworth,
It all-
me, you, whoever?
It's
Okay,
complaint driven. that's right.
okay, complaint driven, okay.
And she has registered with them.
I would see what would be hard to enforce countywide. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of tenant farmhouses and abandoned houses and old homes, and where would, I mean, how could you apply to some and not all?
Now, we certainly try to use what we have, minimum housing code. We have a solid waste ordinance. If there are trash debris piled up on a property, abandoned motor vehicle ordinance, we have that, the old junk cars sitting on a property. You know, any of those that we do have on the books, we certainly
And
can.
most of that is complaint driven.
That's,
It's complaint driven, it's not county an issue.
that's right.
We don't have an inspector. I mean, it's contract, we've been trying to hire an inspector, which has been one of our issues. Probably the planning department's issues in terms of having somebody to send out to really inspect it. But it's something that I say that it has come to the board, and Ms. Evans will certainly address it. So that's any other comments?
And as a note, we do have a full-time inspector now. He's not fully certified. He's, in fact, just got one of the certifications here recently. But then we do have a fully certified inspector that's under contract.
Any other comments or questions?
Just one thing I like
Go
to,
ahead.
when you have your, meeting with your staff, especially supervisors, please ask them, a courtesy is to return a phone call to our constituents. I know they get a lot of calls, I get a lot of calls, but just a courtesy, we need to return these phone calls in a factual manner.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, next.
Also, Mr. Nehemiah Smith has signed up.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of children and sagacious thought. That said, let's stop lying to the public. The narrative surrounding the contrived issue of the merger is rooted in a lie. The very language is purposely deceptive. The merger, as I've said before, and I'll say again tonight, the merger does not apply to this instance. Uncouple, break up, perhaps, but demerger, no. The deception has led those who are otherwise rational to make irrational statements and decisions. A scathing analysis for sure, and yet a true assessment that gives way to the question, why now? The push should not be to reclaim children. They have never belonged to the county school system. These children, majority African American, are the legacy of a now defunct system, Rocky Mount City Schools, who have been left to languish in inadequate buildings and low-performing schools and are now being used as political pawns to further the agenda of a Nash County megalomaniac and toothless leadership in Edgecombe County. What will be the financial impact? What will be the transitional impact? What will be the effect on the tax rate? How are you going to match the approved teacher supplement of Nash County? Who is coming to Edgecombe County to work for less pay in this economy? To even consider this as an option is wrong-headed. What kind of half-schooled legal advice are you getting? You seem to be thinking and working within the context of parameters set by someone else. Refocus and do what's best for all children in Edgecombe County, what's best for those children in the city and in rural areas. Let's start thinking outside the box. Let's push for our local legislative delegation to introduce a bill that will remove Edgecombe County's responsibility to fund anything outside the city limits. Remember, this was not a county-county merger. It was a city-county merger. Nash County has carved out its own brand of legislative influence while Edgecombe County twiddles its proverbial thumbs and has been rendered politically impotent. Let's move away from knee-jerk reactions to counterfeit public issues and toward the push for all parties involved to improve academic performance and become producers of young people who are prepared for the world of work and for higher education opportunities. Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Chairman, that we had to call and sign up. We may have some here.
Anybody else here to speak?
Good evening. Camille Stanton, 127 Midway Lane, Carver, North Carolina. The mailing address, P.O. Box 1391, Pine Top, North Carolina. And I have hair. This is me. I go once a year so people see I got a full head of hair. So it is me. I'm the right guy tonight. Okay, good evening. I was not feeling well during the July meeting, so I did know. Let me go back. I'm doing it live, and people are saying they can't hear y'all, so y'all need to talk in the mic. Okay, back to the regular program. I was not feeling well during the July meeting, so I didn't attend the meeting when you voted on the merger of Edgecombe County Public Schools and Natchez County Public Schools. I began in the late 80s attending the Edgecombe County board meetings and challenged the system for years. I remember the bond referendum that Natchez County Public Schools received, and it appears that Edgecombe County Public Schools got little out of it. I attended and videoed all of the public meetings that were held for the community to attend about the merger, and it was hard missing the meetings when you voted. I was very disappointed in the vote. I don't understand why the vote failed, because the facts of how Edgecombe County has been treated, and as it stands, it will not change unless Edgecombe County bring our children back home where they belong. I'm not going into details of why, because the board knows what has transpired over the years. I was very disappointed in Commissioners Viola Harris and also Ralph Wells voting against the merger. It was clear to me in previous meetings where Commissioners Donald Boswell, my district, and William Wooten stood. I don't understand why anyone that is politically inclined and knowledgeable of what is at stake, that they would not want to see the merger take place. Someone said they are worried about what they don't know. But my problem is what we do know. We know there are around 1,700 students that will come back to Edgecombe County Public Schools. We know staff, facilities, transportation, and others that they receive now will be needed in Edgecombe County, so what is the problem? We know that monies from the state and others are going to Natchez County Public Schools now, will be coming to Edgecombe County Public Schools. I believe the Edgecombe County Commissioners and the Edgecombe County Public Schools joint meeting in Princeville to discuss the merger in February 24, 2020 that I recorded and have it on YouTube. I got a copy for you, but I got it. I got a link that I'm going to email, so you can, when you pull up email, you go straight to the YouTube page. Explains it well about why the merger is on the table and what it would take, what would take place after the merger. I arrived a little late at the February meeting because I got off work at 3:30 p.m. I work a real job to try to keep up with y'all, and attended the Rocky Mount City Council meeting at 4 o'clock, and then arrived at the meeting in Princeville shortly after it had began. The presentation began. The presentation by the county manager and the Edgecombe County Superintendent, Edgecombe County Public School Superintendent and her team was awesome to me. I got it. What I got back then, I get today. Add 2 years to what was discussed, and it means that the cost has risen. It means that the longer we wait, it will continue to rise. I will end now because I think you got the message. However, I want to end on the following note. As I viewed Commissioner Harris' video of the public comments, I seen Reverend Roosevelt Heath address the board, and he used my physical address as he was to give his name and his address. It is a fact that he just registered with the Natchez County Board of Elections on March 20, 2022, and that he lives at 2820 South Church Street, Rocky Mount, North Carolina. At least 4 of you know that he does not live in Tallville, and no, he has not lived in Speed since the 1999 flood, but used that address until this change. He also confirmed he has been living in the Natchez County at the Natchez County address for several years on WNCR TV, Bronson Wheels Morning Show, Well, some I know look at it daily, faithfully. When he talked about when his son beat him up, I am asking this board to address Reverend Roosevelt Higgs for giving this board my address when he addressed you. Thanking you in advance, and this is 15 copies, like I said, I'm gonna send you the ones online so you can go straight to the Houston page. Thank you.
Any comments, anything from the board? If not, I want to, if in fact you did use that list, please contact Reverend Higgs, I don't know, and determine if the education shall advise him that should not be done. I don't think. You take care of the speech. That's okay. If in fact that is the case, take care of it.
Could you repeat that? I didn't.
I asked our attorney if in fact that is the case, for him to take care of that with Mr. Reverend Higgs.
Thank you. Okay.
Any other comments or hearing none?
One more.
We got, please come forward, please come forward.
Good evening, my name is Tricia Wilson. We live at 3767 Howard Avenue Extension, which is right here on the corner of Howard Avenue and McNair Road. We own St. Anne's Chapel, and we have noticed a large increase in the noise of vehicles, whether it's trucks individually owned or if it's motorcycles. And we understand it's a busy intersection. We are more than happy to know that the industrial park's down the road, but especially the last 2 years during COVID, the trucks and personally owned trucks and the motorcycles have gotten excessively larger, louder. We are a retreat center. We do meditations twice a week. It's very difficult to have a meditation, stress reducing program, and then all of a sudden you have a loud vehicle that we have to stop our program to allow it to go over because you cannot hear our music. I also am a sound healer, and I have been doing energy sessions on my front porch because of COVID, and I have to stop my program because of the loud noise. I called to find out if we had an ordinance, and apparently we do, from 1980. But the other night I was driving up in Edenton, and I noticed they have a noise ordinance that's strictly enforced, and it is on their city as you come in. I don't know if y'all can see that. I didn't bring a picture, but they have it. I contacted their Edenton community. How do they enforce it? It's enforced 3 different ways. If it's in town, it's a police. If it's out in the county, it's the sheriff, or also a state trooper has addressed it. Let's see, what else? So I was hoping that there's something we could do to, I also contacted the inspection here in Tarboro, one of the inspection sites, and they said they do not have a decibel meter, that they only are requested to make sure that there aren't any holes in the mufflers. It does not count for a muffler that's been sawed off, that can still pass inspection. So we don't have anything to regulate this, and I will do whatever I have to. If I have to sit out there and take driver's license numbers down so I can address this issue, it has to be quiet. So if there's anything y'all can do, we'd really appreciate it. But if Edenton can do it, Edenton gets a lot of their money from tourism, and I think, I'm out of breath because I'm not used to talking, y'all. But I think Tarboro has a great potential to bring in with our historic district, and because we are a retreat center, we are bringing in people from outside the, not just the county, but the state. And we would like you to help support us grow our community. Whew, I'm really upset. Sorry, y'all. My 3 things were I was going to yell I was gonna plead, beg, and swear. So I haven't sworn yet, but
I
anyhow.
I think you've done a good job of
Okay.
telling us what the
Thank
issue
you.
is. But I do believe that the city, the address you stated is, that it's in the county. How would, do we have a noise on? We do have a noise?
Quiet zone.
Well, we certainly would ask our sheriff to, the manager would certainly ask our sheriff to.
Is there any way we could get a sign posted on the city limits now? I know that's the town, but just, it's really attractive the way Edenton has done it.
I look at, I don't know if it's a DOT, I don't know what it is, but look at the possibility of that, Mr. Evans and Mr. Peters. Any way that we can help, see if we can help.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here to speak? Hearing none, moving on to other business.
Right. So, next on the agenda is budget amendments. I will point out to you, if I may,
Page 7. Page 7, there's no approval. Is that overlooked?
yes, sir, it's overlooked, it should be checked for.
And on page 16, 17, those figures look, and on page 21, those figures look so similar. I was wondering if there was a duplication of
16 and 17.
16, 17, and 21.
So if you look at the column where it says increase or decrease, yeah, you'll see that those are different numbers. So on number 16 is $203 that's being moved. On 17 is a little over $24,000 is being moved. And then on number, what was it, 21 you said? Number 21 is $1,000 that's being moved. I think what you're seeing, the number is these, we're pulling these from fund balance, so we're using that fund balance at the current time number, but the main thing is the change in the middle, that increase or decrease. So you'll see that those are different budget. Yes, sir, but thank you for pointing that out.
Go ahead, sir.
Sure. So if we'll go back to number 1, I do want to point out, number 1 there in your packet, this is Industrial Development Fund grant from North Carolina Department of Commerce for Kingsborough project. This was a previously awarded grant, and what we're doing is we're rolling that grant project forward. You'll see we have almost $2.3 million left in that project, so we are moving it forward. We corrected the error originally. We were showing it was pulling from fund balance, but in fact, the revenue source is the grant itself. This is a reimbursable grant, so we don't have those funds already. We don't have those funds already in hand. Number 2, and there will be a few others I'll point out. You want to notice that this is in fact pulling from fund balance, $1,345. So this is for the local match for the JCPC program. And we had the incorrect match number. It was $1,345 less than what it should be. So this is to correct that. And as you know, we are required to provide a 10% match for these JCPC programs. Number 3, this was to replace IT switches in the Human Services building. This was budgeted in the FY22 budget. When we prepared the 23 budget, we thought that this was going to be complete by the end of the fiscal year, but it was not. So we're asking that you appropriate the balance owed on that, which is $75,000, appropriating that to the hardware software line in the IT department. Number 4, this is District 6 sewer rehab project. As you know, we have funding that has been earmarked from USDA Rural Development Loan and Grant to do this project. This is including pre-development costs. And so this is funded by the county. It will be reimbursed by the project. So we're rolling that project forward. We do need to appropriate $38,930 from fund balance for that. I won't touch on all of these, but certainly stop me if you have a question about any. I'll go to number 14. You'll see here number 14 and following. These are a number of grants. These are grants that are advanced to the county. We've already received these funds. They were received last fiscal year, so we have those in hand. At the end of the fiscal year, basically they fall into or dump into general fund. So now we are appropriating that money out of general fund into these various projects. The first one is the highway safety grant funds that are rolled from last year to current years in the sheriff's office. Funds already received. The next one, again, Sheriff's Office number 15. These are unused donated funds from FY22, moving those forward. FY23, $3,305. Number 16 is these upfront fees received by the state, $203 that were received last year, or a balance of what was received last year that's being rolled forward. Number 17, this is NCDPS, Department of Public Safety, grant funds that were received last year, the balance of which $24,412 would be moving those forward with that budget amendment. Number 18, this is in the Emergency Services Department. This is for what's called the EMPG grant funds that were received last fiscal year. We have those in hand. So that'd be rolling this forward as well, $45,301 forward from fund balance to current fiscal year. Number 20, I want to point this out. I think you'll recall us discussing that CSX wanted to make grant donations to the various agencies that were involved in responding to the fire at QVC. I said CSX. QVC, get the letters right. QVC wanted to make donations to the agencies that were involved in responding to the fire at QVC. And so that they had asked us for a list of all of the fire departments and other agencies. We've given that list. So they are making donations to these agencies through the United Way. And so our Emergency Services Office is receiving $20,000 from QVC. And so this will be to appropriate the funds received from QVC. And they don't have any particular, they don't stipulate any particular use of it. We will use it for miscellaneous expenses in both emergency services and in our EMS unit. Number 21, again, this is transferring, moving forward $1,000 in donated funds from last fiscal year to the current. And then you have at your place numbers 23 and 24 that I would ask if you would consider adding these to.
You never confess. Don't confess on record.
So you'll see item number, or budget amendment number 23 is in the health department. Just relatively small budget revision for COVID-related funds that were received. And number 24, this is to appropriate the home and community care block grant funds and to the various eligible funding activities under HCCBG. So, happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Evans, you did a marvelous job, so can I take you back to 5 and 6?
Yes, sir.
Or would you take us back to 5 and 6?
5 and 6.
Yes, sir. just speak to those just a second.
Sure.
And I think I said it. If you would, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So, so 5 and 6, this is in Department of Social Services.
Yes, sir.
So what this is, and I should have flagged this one, I'm glad you picked this up. So what this is, as you know, you approved using some of our ARPA money. Of course, we're using all of that to replace general fund dollars, so that then we can use general fund dollars to do those list of activities that you have approved. One of the list of activities was to do a CIP or Crisis Intervention Program like program. In the social service, they have a crisis intervention program for families that in need meet income requirements. This has helped them to get past some type of family crisis or employment crisis or whatever it might be. And so what this is, we budgeted that under the we budgeted that in the county's ARPA funding, and so we are now moving that into a line that we created in DSS to better to appropriate that so that they can use it. Later in the agenda, I have some information that I'll share with you exactly how that program is going.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. But that's what that is. That's
Okay.
we're using the term now ARPA enabled program. We're not using ARPA funds, but that ARPA money is enabling us to use county funds to do that program. And what was the other, number 6?
Yes, sir.
Number 6, so in social services, they estimate when we prepare the budget what the administrative reimbursement is going to be for a number of our programs in social services. We get reimbursed from the state, depending on the program as to the percentage. Sometimes it's 50%, 60%, 75%, depending on the program. And so they estimate how much that's going to be. We really don't know the exact number until right there at the beginning of the fiscal year. And so they always come back in to modify that. So we're increasing that budget by $142,477. So this is the administrative reimbursement that we will receive from the state.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's a new program. We haven't always had it.
That's right, for the low-income water assistance program, that's right. And that's similar to the low-income energy assistance program that we have, that's correct. Any other questions?
Any other questions on it? If not, motion to approve?
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, none of those approved. Next, Mr.
Next is item B under other business. So in order to, as you know, that our Catherine Walters, our finance director, retired, and so we need to now recruit for that position. In order to recruit a person with the requisite skills and experience needed to run the finance department and manage the county's financial operations, I suggest that we create a Chief Financial Officer or CFO position. For your consideration, I provided a draft job description. You'll see that compared to the finance director position, it has increased requirements for this position. I'm also recommending that this position be at grade 30 on the salary scale. And certainly if you approve this, we will advertise and recruit for this position.
And he sent us a job description in our agenda package. Any questions, anything before we entertain a motion? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, none is approved. Next, Mr.
Item C. In the planning department, we currently have a senior planner position which is filled and a planner position which is vacant. Ms. Katina Bradford, our planning and inspections director, recommends that the operations of the office will be better served by creating a planning technician position to fill instead of a planner. This is a position we do not currently have on our salary scale. Therefore, I recommend that you approve the addition of a planning technician position at a grade 13 on your salary scale. I do want to note for the record that this is not, we will fill this instead of the planning position, planner position, and therefore is no additional budget request for the planning hall.
Check that, Ms. Evans, see, I think, see if that's pay grade 11 or 13, because I think I looked at something in there. But you
11.
you recommended it to pay grade 11, right?
Yes, sir, it's
Okay,
11.
okay.
Oh, I did say 13. Yes, sir, it's 11. Thank you for catching that.
Motion? Second? Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Next.
Item B, as you know, the Leonard Wiggins Parkway has been constructed and now connects Kingsborough Road and Highway 64 alternate through Kingsborough Industrial Park. This is an NCDOT maintained road, and therefore the road's right-of-way needs to be transferred to the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Therefore, I recommend that you approve the attached deed for highway right-of-way and the accompanying voluntary donation acknowledgement.
Motion. So moved.
Second.
Question.
Question.
Go ahead.
Are they gonna keep it, the grass cut, unlike they're doing on 64 most days?
Well, it'll be in their responsibility. We hopefully they'll do it on their.
Call them instead of us. Any other questions? Did I get a motion?
Yes, sir.
All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Next.
Item E, as you know, settlement was reached in the nationwide opioid litigation. Every county in North Carolina will receive an annual allocation for the next 18 years to be used to fund opioid remediation activities. We have received our first allocation of $103,202.87. And we expect soon to receive another in the amount of $226,963. The 18-year payment schedule is included in your packet. The program provides a list of eligible activities for which we can use the funds. Our core committee, or coordinated opiate recovery effort, has considered which activities would be most impactful for Edgecombe County and recommend to include evidence-based addiction treatment, recovery support services, syringe service program, and naloxone distribution. I recommend that you approve the enclosed grant project ordinance and budget amendment for the opioid settlement. Motion.
So moved.
Second. Question. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Next.
Item F. A few corrections are noted for our FY23 budget ordinances, including the general fund ordinance, ARPA fund ordinance, water and sewer operations ordinance, and solid waste ordinance. This is to correct errors of omission, miscalculation, and typographical errors. None of these result in any change in the overall budget, nor do they require additional fund balance appropriation. You will see the changes are tracked on the ordinances in your packet. I'll be happy to review these changes in detail if you like. Otherwise, I recommend that you approve the revised ordinance as presented.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Question. All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved.
Yes, sir.
I guess I'm looking at page 1 or something. Looking at the total figures, I was trying to figure out what that was. Page 1. Page 2.
Page 1, under the general fund, school capital ordinance, says at the top.
Edgecombe solid waste ordinance.
Okay, solid waste. Okay, and what was your question? I'm with you now.
I'm looking at the figure down here, see what the figure is. 3,300.
Gotcha, I see what you're saying.
What is that? You want that figure?
Okay, what that is, it should be 3,379,332. When it tracks the changes, it underlines the change. It shows you what number was there before, and it underlines the change there.
So that's usually what?
So 3,379,332. Yes, sir. Yeah, when they track the change, the system tracks the changes, how it shows that. Good question, I think.
Number G?
Item G, yes, sir.
Is that what it was?
Yes, sir.
Right.
So in 2018, you approved updates and corrections to our personnel policy that included a change to section 10 on workers' compensation found on page 50. The change was to not allow employees out on workers' compensation to use sick and vacation leave to make up for the difference they received in workers' compensation, being that it only pays 2/3 of the employee's wage. Allowing leave to be used creates a disincentive to returning to work. Being that the workers' compensation is not subject to federal and state taxes, allowing the use of leave to make up the difference puts the employee's take-home pay at, if not slightly above, what they usually make. So that was corrected on that page 50 back in 2018. We recently noticed that another relative section in the personnel policy on page 38 was not changed at the same time, and it now creates conflicting statements in our policy. Therefore, I recommend that you approve amending the personnel policy on page 30 in section 3 to state, an employee may not use sick leave to supplement workers' compensation benefits up to 100% of the gross salary.
Any questions of that? If not, second. Question. All in favor, let it be known by the vote of sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. It is approved.
Thank you. Item H is regarding the Sheriff's Highway Safety Program grant application. Sheriff does plan to apply for the Governor's Highway Safety Program. This is the second year of a 4-year grant. The funds are used to designate a full-time deputy to address traffic collisions, speeding complaints, and other issues related to traffic safety and education. The grant does require a match of $19,394, which will come from funds already budgeted in the Sheriff's Office. I recommend that you approve the resolution authorizing the submission of the application to the North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Motion? Question. All in favor, let it be known by the vote of sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Alpha list and releases for review and approval. Anything be brought to the board's attention?
No, sir, Mr. Chair. Happy to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, I recommend that you approve.
Any questions? If not, is there a motion? All in favor, let it be known by the vote of sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Contracts and review. Anything be brought to the board's attention?
You have one contract before you tonight. This is in our IT department for what's called a scale system replacement. This was anticipated in our budget. It was budgeted in the IT department. You'll see is a recommended contract approval of $148,944 with Computer Central of Wilson Incorporated. Recommend that you approve.
Motion?
So moved.
Questions?
Question.
Go ahead.
I read through this thing, but I don't remember, it might have been in there. Is there a time frame for it?
For them to complete it?
Yes.
I believe it is, usually it is.
Okay, it might have been in there, just missed it, that's fine, just got a time frame. But some things get drug out.
There's a schedule of performance of work.
I saw where it showed for arrival equipment, stuff like that. It may have been another date, that I just missed.
I saw 6 to 8 weeks for a while or something.
Yeah, it was the parts and stuff, but I didn't know. that.
Which might or might not come.
Yeah, right.
So, you all right? Let's move it on.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote of sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. All departmental reports for review. Any Any questions of the board? As it relates, any of the departments or anything you need to comment on here, Mr. Evans?
I just want to say is you do have the financial summary report in your packet. I do want to take this opportunity to introduce to you our interim finance director, Ms. Beth Edmondson. I'm asked if she would to come to the podium just so you all can meet her. Some of you may have had the chance to meet her. She was working for us on a consultant basis for a few months prior to this. And we're grateful that she has grabbed hold of the reins for us. This gives us the time to really do our due diligence to fill this position, get through our 2022, FY22 audit. So we're happy to have her here.
I think we should agree to stay on 10 years.
Well, thank you for helping us through the time that you've been here. And we're looking forward to getting this audit on time. Thank you for all your help.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight, and thank you for the opportunity to serve the county. Look forward to working with all of you, and I'll give assistance in any way I can to you.
Any questions or comments from the board? Thank you so much.
She does live here in Edgecombe County. She retired from Golden Leaf Foundation, was their controller, and did a wonderful job.
How long were you at Golden Leaf?
I was at Golden Leaf over 17 years. So.
Well, you've been helping us a long time. So. Yeah, you've been helping us a long time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other thing I do want to draw your attention to under the department reports, you'll see, as I mentioned a moment ago, we are using, ARPA has enabled us to use county funds to do this sort of CIP-like program in the Department of Social Services. They're calling it the Community Impact Program. I think this will provide some much-needed assistance. And so it's similar to a program we already have been administering for years. Most social services have this. This adds some money on top of that. It will enable us to serve more of our citizens through this program. You'll see it can cover things, transportation issues, rent mortgage assistance for folks that are past due, utility assistance, reemployment, job training, and a number of other things. There is an income limit requirement, which you see it is shown there on the flyer. So just wanted you to have an opportunity to see this before we actually advertise for this and start taking applications. I appreciate this board being willing to allow us to use some of these funds to assist some of our citizens that find themselves in need.
I guess, when I read this thing, I guess that the different departments make people aware that this is available to some, for them, for help if they're delinquent taxes or whatever, what the different things that go to.
Right, so this will be run out of social services, and they will advertise this as they do their other programs, yes, sir. And so, absolutely, our tax department will know if they come across a citizen who may qualify for this, that they can refer them to the program.
That's what I was thinking.
And that's what
we talked about that.
Yes, sir.
Will it be put on our website?
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Then now moving on to the management report.
You see we have workforce development indicators there. I do want to give you a quick update that I received from the folks at the Department of Transportation here at the Tarboro office about bridge projects. And so they informed me that 3 bridges that are clustered together over the Swift Creek on 7 Bridges Road in Edgecombe County. ST Wooten Corporation will start in September, and they expect to reopen that road by May of 2023. NC 122 Bridge over Town Creek, north of Pine Tops in the county. Sanford contractors will start this month, actually in July they started. They expect to reopen the road in March of 2023. NC 97 over Swift Creek, north of Tarboro in the county. Sanford contractors will began in July, and they expect to reopen the road by April of 2023. So I know all of you have heard about previous contractors' delays, have had to pull those projects, reissue those contracts, and so now those are getting up and started and moving forward. Just wanted you to be aware of that.
Any questions?
What was that second one?
NC 122?
122.
Yes, ma'am. North of Pine Top.
The one in Leggett is due for April 2023. 97. Okay, so that's caused a lot of turmoil, especially for those schools. I mean, schools right there and they can't get to the children. It's right across the bridge, they have to go spend more money on gas to go all the way right. Now church folks can get to church on time.
Commissioners report.
That's one thing else, I heard that Mr. Harris's statement about earlier, and it's been one of my pet peeves, and I'll bring it up again. I don't understand why we cannot get people to call citizens back when they have a problem. I just don't understand. I don't know if they're reminded or what you do if you do anything, but it's very sad for somebody to call looking for help and nobody responds to them, at least in the form of a phone call, say, I got your complaint.
Any other commissioner? Any other attorney report? At this time, ladies and gentlemen, this case is going to a closed session to discuss economic development. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We will now stand in closed session. Thank you so much.